where you really felt like you found your role in this team? Because it felt like the first 2 years you were trying to figure out exactly your place in the W.
Everybody does a little bit, and I think it's having that support system to.
Lexie Hull's decision to hide some weird details about Caitlin Clark's involvement in the Indiana Fever locker room is the reason why the WNBA is currently going crazy. Naturally, as everyone is aware, Caitlin Clark has always been the indifferent queen. She is the type that may be thrown, shoved, or even blindfolded while playing a game. They continue to behave as though everything is part of the plan, but Lexie Hull,
where you really felt like you found your role in this team? Because it felt like the first 2 years you were trying to figure out exactly your place in the W.
Things are so up in the air that it's hard to know exactly where you.
She won't remain quiet. She makes a lot of noise. She is steadfast. And she is done witnessing her best friend and teammates become the objects of ridiculous ridicule. She is therefore disclosing every bullying incident, humiliating experience, and bizarre item that has managed to get unreported up to this point.
Yeah, I mean, I've read some of my DMs that are hidden, and I refuse to read a lot of them because I know people are upset, and so you kind of forget that there's these people behind the scenes until they come out of the woodwork and say I've been following along this whole time.
As everyone knows, the Indiana Fever season began as a total bust, with 1 win and 8 heartbreaking losses that would have been a nightmare for any team except for the fever-laden expectations. It seemed to be a total catastrophe. It was unbearable, and you could just feel the uncertainties all around you. Everyone is blotting out the locker room, wondering how a group with so much potential could disappear so fast. One question captivated players, staff, and fans alike. Are they ever going to be able to return? Now, Lexie Hull is an essential way out of this dilemma. When she brought up a few elements of the team's turnaround, you didn't keep your distance for a few days. There was chaos in the dressing room. It was common to feel both physically and mentally exhausted. Additionally, there was a pervasive sense that they were better than their record despite the stress, which was revealed to be a naive optimism that was hidden beneath layers of frustration. This was evident in their constant physical contact with players who were shaking and dangerously close to breaking despite the stress.
After the season, all of our shots, threes going up, fans are out of their seats and expecting it to go in. So that just feels so good to feel the confidence from.
Doors made sense when Hull disclosed what happened behind closed doors. Every loss left the team in a state of emotional turmoil, punch, and the players started to have second thoughts. They were clinging to life because of the intense tension surrounding their position in the league, whether their tactics were ridiculous or whether their roles were even rational. Some players were questioning whether it was worth it to keep pushing. However, the startling aspect of the Fever never went away for anyone. Distinct. Despite the fact that it would have been simpler to allow their rage to split them apart, they stayed united.
Following in the spotlight is great, and it's a huge deal for the WNBA and women's sports, but at the end of the day, our job is to perform. We've seen just such a growth year after year, so it's been so fun. The fans in Indiana have been amazing, so just excited to.
They made the impossible decision to put their trust in one another, but they chose not to. It was only stubbornness to point fingers. Their unwavering unanimity and determination, which defied logic in every manner, prepared the ground for the surprising turnaround and showed how far they could go to triumph against disorder when they stood together. The Indiana Fever's journey then took an unexpected turn on the day of the WNBA draft, when Caitlin Clark announced her nomination. Fans who had already seen Clark break down on the collective loss by college were essentially shut out of the sports world. When the Fever took hold, social media abruptly shifted from merely complaining about the illness to Twitter going into full-blown mania due to Clark's frantic Instagram posts, bursting with fan art and celebrations, as well as the once embarrassing preseason ticket sales. Indeed, the squad was not only using the Fever's facilities when they really entered them, soaring as if they had been launched before Clark came out of a cannon. It captured everyone's attention like a blockbuster film. On April 10th, 2023, the first night of the draft, Gainbridge Fieldhouse was packed with innumerable supporters who were going crazy. Clark was selected based only on observation. There has never been a more accurate metaphor for screen fever. Additionally, There was a commotion that sounded like someone turning up the volume on a blast of an amplifier the size of a stadium.
Realize that like the start of the season isn't the biggest deal. It's how we finish and how we get better. And really proud of just the resiliency of the group. Yeah, I think, she sees the game at a bigger scale, obviously with the platform that she's created for herself. And then that's transitioned to the game.
But let's be clear about one thing. Clark made a difference. She was definitely a human highlight reel right now, but what really made her stand out was the excitement she provided, not her incredible three-point shooting or her ability to control games. Lexie Hull was unable to stop discussing the significant change with the crew. Hull described how Clark entered her first practice as soon as he got there. It also seemed as if the whole group had turned into a generator. Suddenly, it didn't seem like anyone had passed away. Her talent alone, her sense of humor, was what made everyone laugh in a matter of minutes. Simple, sincere comedy without any forced jokes. A room full of stressed-out sportsmen can somehow feel as though they had gone to a comedy club instead, thanks to Clark. Even though Clark had been getting ready for drills, he was dead. It was renowned to be competitive in an effort to win her over. The team as a whole quickly learned about Clark's approach, which was explained by a catch on Hull. The team members who were slow to react and found themselves suddenly demoralized found themselves excited as the insane drive to win spread quickly throughout the group.
She's definitely going to say, like, you got the next one. Like, I can count on her for keeping me, like, confident and positive.
It was no longer a chore to practice. It was a battlefield instead. Clark made certain that everyone was ready for battle. Her strength, however, did not just increase. It made Clark realize that presence was more than just dazzling plays. The intensity of her fever was getting worse. When they got there, they hadn't even noticed. The instances that demonstrated that Clark was much more than just a basketball player. Savant Christ coach sides had turned up the sound to mimic crowd noise one day during a demanding practice. With the exception of Clark, who didn't skip a beat, other players were coping with the deafening noise. "Ken, someone turn it off," she screamed. "I'm getting a migraine from it." There was silence throughout the room. That was never how anyone addressed coach sides. Hull mentioned the collective breath of the group. Everyone was waiting for an explosive reaction, but when Clark repeated, the team burst out laughing, and the tension was relieved. It was ludicrous, unexpected, and instantly became a household name throughout history.
Talk about a lot is it feels like she really imbues everybody with confidence as well. Like she just sort of has this way of thinking big about things. So look, you've been on the Fever for 3 years now, but this year, you go from a rebuilding team to now you guys are selling out arenas. You're a fan.
Additionally, if we talk about Lexie Hull's development in the meantime, one of those things is the occurrence of Indiana Fever. Tales that are hard to overlook. It's similar to seeing a film where the heroes are the weak ones who eventually make their breakthrough. And when Hull initially joined the WNBA, she was essentially invisible on the court throughout her 2 riding seasons, averaging a pathetic 12.2 minutes per game on the bench. Even the most ardent fans start to question whether she would perform better as a motivational speaker rather than a player after seeing her success rate drop to a dismal 30.7%. She was undoubtedly a college star at Stanford, who won consecutive NCAA titles in 2022 and 2021, but the move to professional baseball hit her hard. The goods train was nothing but struggle glory, but then something happened out of the blue, as Hull herself explained. She felt as though she was dreaming and didn't want to wake up.
The number 1 pick, and once Caitlin declared, that kind of changed things, I think, for the city a little bit. People were just so excited to come support the Fever. We felt that. Yeah, I mean, I think like part of my role is just getting to the open spots, and we have such a good offense that people find the open person.
When a true superstar like Clark relies on you to deliver, it was more than just strategy. It was sincere faith. You start out as though you could, but all of a sudden, Hull was using a level playing field and dripping shots of confidence that made everyone wonder if they would if this were the same player. Fans who didn't even know her name before they started chanting were all but discarded. When they saw Hull, its teammates were shocked. As always, she illuminated the court. In addition to Clark's famous battle ring fire, Hull would joke about how horrifying it was for Clark to lose a practice match, which used to make it seem like regular warm-ups had altered. Clark pushes herself and her friends in gladiatorial-style fights. Her obsession with players who are winning quickly spread. They depended on it to claw their way back, as though they had won the entire competition, diving like their lives for loose balls. Everyone on the team has to be leveled up. There seemed to be a lot at stake in practice. On game days, battle, and that unwavering energy started to pay off.
Competitive aspect of it too. I think it's something you talked about in the past too, that she's just kind of raised the competitiveness level.
Guard on the other team, hitting open shots, being where I need to be, spreading the floor. Like, those are things that I can bring to any team. So those are the things that I focus on.
A game share in Hull's heated locker room, Clark's unique blend of determination, wit, and humor led to regular discussions about how each session felt. Similar to Clark participating in a championship match. Around the competitions, there were more rigorous drills than ever before. But there was an odd happiness in the air. Clark made the most of every second while making sure that everyone else was enjoying themselves. That dual energy was essential for boosting the team's morale and making the effort seem worthwhile. Clark's influence had a cascading effect that altered the team's entire culture. However, nowhere was it more noticeable than in Hull's incredible more than just her diligence. Hull's comeback was proof of what happens when a player builds confidence. Because to Clark's faith, Hull became the player that everyone believed she could be. It serves as a reminder of the transformative power of genuine faith and the strength of solidarity.